Hey there, my lovely clients. You are watching this video, so you know what time it is. It is time for our quarter two check-in. Yay! That's right. It is time for our quarterly check-in. We are officially halfway through 2026. I don't know if you guys can believe it, but we officially just passed a halfway mark throughout the year. This is a great time for us to come together, check on our financial goals, look back at what we said we wanted to do at the beginning of this year, see if we are making progress towards those goals, or if not, let's see what baby steps we can take before the end of this quarter, before the end of the year, so that we can make some accomplishments or at least progress towards your financial goals. I'm your money coach and I'm excited to help you do that. This video is to serve as a reminder for you to schedule a time for us to come together and meet for our quarterly check-in. Again, that's an hour-long meeting. I am currently in Maryland, so if you are in the Maryland area and you want to meet in person, we can absolutely do that. But even if you don't schedule a check-in, this video can serve as a reminder to look back at quarter two, see the things that went well, things that didn't go well, and also plan and strategize going into quarter three so that we can stay on track with our goals. I'm also going to take some time to review our Primerica Solutions newsletter, and we're going to end this video check-in with just some strategy and plan to really address mindset and financial stress. So let's go ahead and jump in. The Solutions newsletter is something that Primerica creates and sends out to all clients on a quarterly basis. As I mentioned, I want to make sure to include it in our quarterly check-in videos and reminders just to give you something tangible to hold on to throughout the quarter. This newsletter is actually a pretty good one. I'm just going to go over some high-level key things that I want you to pay attention to, but I encourage you to go read it in its entirety. This Solutions newsletter starts off with a section titled, "Where's the Money? Eliminate the Guesswork." Because we are at a midpoint throughout the year, this is a great time to really just eliminate the guesswork and check the temperature when it comes to the three main categories that they have here, which is budgeting, retirement, and emergencies. Particularly when it comes to budgeting, it says that 25% of Americans don't have a good idea of where their money is going each month. This is a great reason for us to do a check-in if you feel like you're part of that 25%, because we can really dive in, look at your cash flow. I've actually created a whole budget system that I would love to share with you that really dives into not just dollars and cents and how much is my bill every month, but really looks at how my money is flowing throughout the month and making it work better for you. Sometimes it does result in we need to be making more money, but there also might be other strategies that we can implement that can make your budgeting flow easier throughout the month. Also, eliminating guesswork when it comes to retirement, being able to follow the rule of thumb that they have there in the Solutions newsletter is great, but no matter how close or far off you are from that rule of thumb or where you're supposed to be when it comes to retirement, I want to be the money coach who's going to help you to say, let's start where we can start. Let's get an affordable plan that you feel like you can do and build that confidence of, I know that I can contribute however much it is a month, we can carve out and still be able to live, have fun, budget, while also being able to save and put money away for retirement. When we're talking about emergencies, we want to eliminate the guesswork because we want to first be able to exactly explain the rules and boundaries around what is considered an emergency to me. Of course, there are things when it comes to an emergency that are unpredictable and unplanned. That's what makes it an emergency. We can't foresee everything that's coming, but what we can do is create rules and boundaries around the emergency account, how we save the money, and when we're using it. When we take time to think through these solutions before the emergency arises, we can better have a system rather than allowing everything that is unpredictable and unplanned to completely wipe out our emergency savings. Because truth of the matter is, we're in a state right now where everything feels like an emergency. So we have to be able to build some resolve or some parameters, some boundaries around your emergency savings account. And again, this is something that I want to be able to help you do in our quarterly check-in. The next page of the newsletter goes into a section called What Keeps You from Saving. It's actually from a survey done by usnews.com. It was from February, so a little bit earlier this year, but I still think that these issues still are present. And actually, the survey originally found that 43% of Americans don't have savings to pay for a $1,000 emergency. So, whether you find yourself part of that 43%, or you have more than $1,000 in savings, again, the main point and importance is we still need to save money. We still know that things are going to come up. You still have goals. You still need to live life. We still need to save money. Now, I say that acknowledging that these factors that prevent us from saving are very real things. As a money coach, it's important to me to, yes, help you normalize and realize that financial management right now is hard when we're living paycheck to paycheck. We have maybe not enough income and we're juggling debt or bills. Those are very real situations. And I want to be able to sympathize and empathize with you because I've been there. And I think it's important to have a money coach who can get it and has been in those situations, slash is still recovering out of very similar situations. I'm not perfect and nor have I made it to where I want to be. But one role I want to be able to also play in your life is to challenge you, even if we are dealing with some of these real life situations, we can still find a way to carve out ways to save money, still make progress towards our goals, still invest, still find a way, because otherwise we stay stuck in the system and perpetuate the same poverty cycles. And as your money coach, I want to help you break out of that. So, are these things that might be keeping you from saving very real? Yes. However, we're still going to find a way to save money. And that's one of the reasons why I would love to do a quarterly check in with you. At the bottom of page 2, it has 5 quick supermarket savings hacks. And I think this is really great. I also have created 2 informationals, which I'll share in a separate video. And if you're interested, I'll share all the places where you can find those videos. But basically, we know that essentials like groceries, gas, cost of living are increasing. So we don't need to focus on the things we can't control. What we can't control is the prices rising, the geopolitical tensions, the wars that cause these prices to go up. And sometimes it's not even related to that. Sometimes it just comes down to corporate greed. These are things we can't control. Can I get on my soapbox and talk for a long time with you about it? Yes. However, as your money coach, again, what I want to help you focus on is what are the things we can control. Implementing tips and hacks like these 5 quick supermarket savings hacks can help you to, even if it's a small amount, save every time you're at the supermarket or at the gas pump. When it comes to out and about food spending, like eating out or food delivery service, we're not going to pretend like these things don't exist. What we're going to do is instead come up with a strategy to address how we can work around these things. On page 3 of the newsletter, it has a section called Unused 529 Funds and Roth IRAs. So, we have some new legislation that is called Secure 2.0 Act that now permits up to 35,000 of unused funds in a 529 to be transferred over to the beneficiary's Roth IRA without incurring a 10% penalty or income taxes. So that is great if you already have a 529 and let's say you went to college, didn't use all the money in there. Now this can be rolled over to continue working for you, create a retirement vehicle. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, haven't heard of a 529, it is a education savings account. It is a great vehicle, has some tax advantages. It is an investment, so it is growing and accumulating funds, especially if you have a child or you yourself can plan on pursuing higher education in the future, going back and getting another degree. This is a great vehicle to save for your education. And with this new act, it can now have even more benefits. So if you have a 529 and maybe you forgot about it, let's talk about this in our quarterly check-in. If you don't have a 529, but this sounds interesting to you, again, let's talk about it in the check-in because I would love to set this up for you or your child. There's a little blue box on the side of page 3, and I want to read it out for you guys. It says, did you know about 27% of adults say they're either just getting by or finding it difficult to get by, according to recent household survey done by the Federal Reserve. And this was done in March 2026, but I believe that the sentiments are still the same even throughout quarter 2. And I share that for a few reasons. One, and most importantly, to let you know that you're not alone. I would dare to say it's probably higher than 27%. A lot of people, even those with six-figure income, may feel that they're just getting by or they're juggling a lot of things, a lot of debts, right? So I want to share that because the reason why you have a money coach and the reason why I love doing check-ins with you and all my clients is because I want to help you move beyond that, right? I don't want you to stay in a space of just getting by or finding it difficult to get by. We can do that by improving our mindset, improving our relationship with money, and implementing strategies. And the best part is you have a money coach who wants to do that with you. So more reason for us to schedule a check-in. At the bottom of page 3, the section titled Where There's a Will, There's a Way highlights the consequences of not being protected by a will. I won't spoil the section for you, but I'm definitely going to encourage you to go read it, especially if you've been remarried, divorced, have some stepchildren, have a partner who you haven't married and y'all just living life with. Trust me, I can relate, but I'm going to have you go ahead and read that section. And best part is you have a money coach who has a resource for you. If you don't have a will, please let me know. We can discuss our legal protection plan that has a couple different membership options. And the best part is with each membership option comes a free will. So don't forget to ask me about that when we do our check-in this quarter. And make sure that you have a will. The last page of the newsletter has a section called Help Your Boomerang Kids. Now, I'm going to be honest, when I read this section, I had not heard of the title Boomerang Kids before. And trust me, I've been the boomerang kid before, okay? Thank God. I love my parents. They love me. I was able to move out. I lived in New York for about a year and a half, then I came back home. So I know what it feels like to be a boomerang kid. Not only is it financially stressful, it's also a psychological trip that I think requires a very specialized strategy and approach to our relationship with money and kind of getting back on our feet. So let's set up a time to check in if you are one of those boomerang kids. A title I'm actually more familiar with is the sandwich generation, which the sandwich generation is a generation, usually it falls on an older millennial or Gen X, but basically they're caring for children, dependents, sometimes even adult children in the home, and also aging parents. This puts that person in a very particular financial predicament that requires a strategy. This is not a fly by night scenario. This is not a I'll just figure it out when my kid eventually gets it together and moves out, or when my parents eventually, God forbid, because they hope they have a long life, but eventually they're gonna go. And those require specific strategy because oftentimes that financial burden falls on you. And the section on page 4 really highlights some ways to support whether you have a boomerang kid. I also want to talk to you if you have a aging parent that you are caring for. Both of those require, like I said, a strategy and time for us to do a check-in and really just talk through and make sure that we're still prioritizing your financial goals, your retirement, your financial stability. Because if you're constantly caring for others, it's easy for you to slip through the cracks. So if you find yourself, whether you are the boomerang kid or you're the sandwich generation, both of those require us to do a check-in. So let's set up a time to talk. Alrighty, so that is the end of the newsletter. Next, I want to get into just a few more things that happened in quarter 2 as far as sentiments of the market overall And then we're going to get into practical steps and things that we can implement going into quarter three, and we will wrap it up. So, after reviewing some data, surveys, and statistics from what happened over quarter two, the overall sentiment and takeaway I can let you guys know is that people are stressed out about their money. The main concern is rising cost of essential needs. So things like housing, groceries, gas, utilities, medication, these are things that are not nice to haves. They are essentials to live. And when those costs become unpredictable and variable, meaning they're up and down all over the place, it makes it a lot harder for us to manage our finances. And that definitely leads to financial stress. A term you may have heard of recently that really describes this feeling we're explaining is the K shaped economy. I know I've been seeing it all over news media, social media, so I'm going to take a second to explain to you exactly what that is. So, a K shaped economy describes a recovery pattern after coming out of a recessionary period where two segments, two groups of the economy are recovering in two separate ways. So if you can envision the letter K, we have a point that's going up and we have a point that's going down, right? The people that are going up are the top 10, top 1% of our economy, and they are carrying most of the spending that's happening right now. When we talk about the burdens of inflation, debt, rising cost of living, do they feel the effects of that? Yes. But because they are in an income bracket where their money is just continually making them more money, they continuously spend. Now, if you find yourself in that part, that top part of the K shaped economy, that doesn't mean that we just throw our budgeting and our financial boundaries and our financial plan out the window. You still need to save, invest, manage, and track your finances. Just because we have it doesn't mean we spend it. However, I would dare to say most of the people watching this video, most of my clients, most people in America are in the bottom part of the K, where most people are living paycheck to paycheck, feeling financially stressed, feeling the squeeze of inflation and the burn of rising high cost. So, what's the takeaway when it comes to the K shaped economy? I think a lot of media just highlights that it exists, which just causes us a lot of stress. And in fact, we're living in an era where these two dichotomies are closer than ever. We live in an era where social media is able to give us access to people's social economic status, whether we clearly can see it and it's self-identified by the person. We're seeing people's highlight reel, pinnacle of their life, best travel, luxury homes, brands giving them things for free. And it causes us, because we have access in digital proximity, to naturally either fall into a couple different patterns. And I think one of the most popular ones is comparison. And we use what we see in that top part of the K as a measure of success or where I need to be. So instead of going down that route, I want to help give you a better outlook, perspective, and plan as far as what to do when we're experiencing a hyper K shaped economy. What I want to challenge you to think about if you are in the bottom part of the K is number one, what is my baseline? What is my bare minimum monthly need as far as my expenses just to live? Again, this is a midpoint throughout the year, so it's a great time to take stock. How much debt do I actually have? What are my minimum bills? Not just my nice to have bills or my fun money. Let's talk about what is actually need to keep the clothes on your back, food in the house, electricity and water on. What is that bare minimum need? That is the first question I want you to ask yourself. And most importantly, I've created a budget and system that we can do it together. This is not something that you have to do alone. This is something we can do together in the check in. And then, secondly, I want you to start to think about how can I get myself in a position where my money is working for me? Because the truth of the matter is, the people who are in the top part of the K shaped economy, the reason why they're doing more spending than everyone in the bottom part of the K, more than 60% of America, the reason why they're able to continue doing that is because they own income producing assets. Their money is making them more money. So, the thing that I want you to focus on is not comparing yourself to the top people in the K, but thinking about how can I become a owner rather than just a consumer, right? How can I get my money to be working for me, own an income producing asset? That is how we can, first of all, create more financial stability in our lives. And our goal should not be how do I go from the bottom part of the K to the top part of the K, but our goal should be how do I achieve financial stability and get my money to a place where it's working harder than I am working. And again, this is something that we can do together. As your money coach, I want to help you to invest, to save, because the truth of the matter is, if you never get around to investing money, you're just going to continue working for money and continue to be a consumer and a cog in the machine until you die. So, I want to show you again how to invest, how to be an owner, how to have income producing assets, how to make your money make you more money. Another financial concern that was somewhat covered in news media over the past quarter that I want to highlight is employment numbers and the labor market. Now, if we compare what happened in quarter two to quarter one or quarter four of last year, the numbers are slightly improving. However, when we take a deeper look at some segmented groups, especially when we talk about Black women who are educated and qualified, we're seeing slow hire, quick layoffs, and more time unemployed. You probably know somebody who has been laid off recently, or you might have even seen some layoffs in your own place of employment. So I don't want you to exist in a space of what if. What if I get laid off from my job? What if I don't get paid enough? What if I ask for a promotion and they say no? What if I get laid off and I have all these financial responsibilities? All of that just drives our stress and anxiety, and it's not productive. Instead, I want to give you a word that actually my therapist gave me, and I'm going to share with you guys. She challenged me, instead of spiraling and thinking of all the what ifs, to think about even if. Even if something goes wrong, it's going to be okay because I have a plan to address it. Even if I get laid off from my job, I know that I have this other stream of income. I know that I have this other resource. I know that I have someone in my circle who will support me. So instead of us spiraling and living in a space of fear, wondering if we will get laid off, I want to help you come up with your even if plan. Even if you are laid off, it's going to be okay because we have thought out and created these additional streams of income. We have built out financial safety nets, and we have mental fortitude to know we're going to be okay. Another big theme that we saw throughout quarter two was the increase in impulse spending and the utilization of buy now, pay later systems. Now, I know I've talked to you guys about this before, so I won't spend too much time here. I might make a whole separate video, but I did find some interesting points related to financial behavioral psychology that I think it's interesting to share, and mostly because the better that we understand ourselves, understand our triggers, understand the habits that create this environment for impulse spending, the better we can address the habit. When we try to just approach with practical steps, yes, that can be helpful, but also we need to address the psychology and understand the why behind it as well. So, first point is smaller payments can make something seem cheaper than it is because it lowers the bar for impulse buys. $75 today instead of $300 total, which this causes the pay later to become a mindset that weakens your savings discipline. So think of it like going to the gym. If you never hit the gym, you're never going to build the muscle. We need to be able to get you to a place where we're building the savings muscle rather than upfront saying, I don't have the money, so I'll just separate this into smaller payments. Let's actually take the time to save and accumulate the money. Then we purchase the thing that we want. That's how we build savings discipline. Another point, you end up spending future money before you earned it. And multiple buy now, pay later plans can quietly eat up your upcoming paychecks, which can hide how much is actually leaving each month. Think about it. You just agreed to whatever payment breakdown that they give you. They set how much, the term, the dates that it drafts. They often auto draft right from your checking account. It makes it a lot harder to track your expenses. Drafts are happening at all different times throughout the month. It increases the stress and makes things less predictable. Lastly, payment plans can lead to avoidance instead of facing your real cash flow. Why don't we take time to actually track our expenses, look at what is coming in our next couple paychecks, find the amount that we can save, reverse engineer the goal, and most importantly, build that savings discipline, build that financial confidence, because if you take the time to save, reach that goal, purchase the thing that you want, that is what builds that neurochemistry to know I can do this. So, to wrap up consumer sentiments of quarter two, yes, people are financially stressed. It's harder to save money. Wages aren't keeping up with the rising cost and inflation, and it's getting more and more convenient to do things like buy now, pay later, impulse spend, and avoid your finances altogether. As we go into quarter three, unfortunately, based off of just what I'm seeing, I don't have a crystal ball and I'm not here to fearmonger, but I believe prices will continue to increase. I don't think things are going to slow down when it comes to gas prices, grocery prices, housing inaffordability. So instead of us continuing to stress, all we can do is create a plan and implement practical steps. So, last thing that we will do is go over some practical steps and some things that you can keep in mind and implement as we go into quarter three. Again, whether you do your check in or not, I hope that watching this video will give you some actual things that can help improve and get you closer to your financial goals as we go through quarter three. Number one, stabilize before you strategize. When we're in a state of feeling like we're financially drowning, it's really not the time for us to be trying to strategize and coming up with investment and savings goals and debt freedom. Are those things important? Yes. But originally, we need to take time and find our baseline, get to a place where we are achieving stability. Some tips that we can do to find a baseline is identify bills that can be negotiated or reduced. Sometimes we don't realize that calling that 1-800 number on the back of your card can get things like your interest rate negotiated, sometimes fees removed. Also, calling lenders to request hardship programs or payment plans. Sometimes when we're in a state of stress, we just look at what is the amount due and we're just hustling and trying to get to what is the amount that I have to pay, when you don't realize there is a opportunity, a solution that you don't have to pay this whole thing right away. Also, reviewing subscriptions and recurring charges can be a great way to reduce bills, even if it's for a temporary time. Maybe not forever, but if we have a goal to get to stability, maybe this streaming platform or this subscription isn't as important right now. The goal is to reduce today's stress, not create a perfect budget. How can we get to a place where we are no longer drowning, even if it just means that our head is above water? Tip number two, create financial safety nets. Most of the time, when we're talking about saving for emergencies, we're thinking about a dollar amount in an emergency savings account. While that is important, another thing that I want you to consider is how can I create financial safety nets that doesn't just include money? Money is not the only resource. Again, a lot of the time when we're in the spiral of financial stress, it's hard for us to think of solutions and resources that are at our disposal So rather than waiting until we're at that moment, let's take time to explore what options may be around us. So explore things like your city, county, or state offered grant programs, community organizations, mutual aid groups, food banks and cooperatives, child care exchanges, transportation sharing, professional networking, employer assistance programs. The point is reducing expenses through community support because this can be just as valuable as increasing income and oftentimes are more accessible to us rather than trying to find, for example, $1,000 in an emergency savings situation. Tip 3, focus on cash flow, not just expenses. Sometimes people think that they have a spending problem. While that might be true, it can also be that you have a cash flow problem. So, taking time to actually explore when I get paid from my job or from my income, what account does that money drop into? How often is that account being drafted from somewhere else? When does the money leave? How much? How often? What weeks are the hardest? Taking time to explore this can help us to realize, oh, actually, if I just rearrange some recurring bills or align some automatic payments with my payday, I can reduce overdraft fees or late fees or not have to be as financially stressed without having to significantly increase my income. One thing that I've created that I'd love to share with all of my clients is a money mapping and tracking system that we can actually lay out what accounts you have, how much is going into those accounts, and which accounts are connected to each other so that the money is flowing throughout the week, throughout the month, and making it easier for you. Tip number 4, implement systems to reduce financial decision fatigue. People under chronic financial stress become easily overwhelmed by financial decisions. Stress can lead to avoidance, which leads to missed opportunities, or self doubt, where you just constantly are talking yourself in and out of decisions, or rash, impulsive decisions that turn into costly mistakes. To avoid this, we need to simplify your financial management system and implement more spaces to set it and forget it and just routinely check in for maintenance. So, here are some examples of what I mean. Have just one account where we're paying bills, one account for your everyday spending, one account for your emergencies. We're not having a whole bunch of random accounts, random credit cards just because. Each account has a purpose. Utilizing specialized savings accounts, of course, where it makes sense, just to keep the money separate, manageable, and dedicated to that specific goal. And lastly, a self routine 20-minute check in instead of just worrying every day. Whether it's daily, weekly, bi weekly, schedule it rather than having to constantly have it in the back of your mind. In conclusion, less mental energy means better, more clear minded financial decisions. Tip number 5, regulating your nervous system is the key to managing your finances. Sometimes when we sit down to manage our finances, we're approaching the situation from a state of dysregulation and distress. Really, it's bigger than just the numbers on the screen. It's about how we feel in our body when we think about our money situation. And the truth is that stress seeps into every aspect of our lives. Financial stress affects concentration, it affects sleep, it influences relationships, it can make planning for the future feel impossible. So, I want to give you this thought. Your perception of reality is only what your nervous system has the capacity to receive. I'm going to say that one more time. Your perception of reality is only what your nervous system has the capacity to receive. So, because of that, I want you to take time to understand your triggers, understand why you might do the things that you do when it comes to your finances. Add tools to your emotional and psychological tool belt to help you regulate your nervous system before you sit down and look at your finances, because truthfully, approaching the situation from a positive headspace and being open to receive makes financial planning and strategizing a lot easier. I'm actually going to be releasing a whole separate video that really dives deep into this topic. I'm very interested in neuroscience, the brain chemistry, and financial psychology. So stay tuned for more content about that in the future. Tip number 6: celebrate resilience, not just perfect budget management. So sometimes we get so hard on ourselves or down on ourselves for not accomplishing all the goals or the things that we set out to do for the quarter, or maybe by this point in the year you thought you'd be further along with your goals. I want to encourage you to turn that around and focus on the things that you were able to do by just maintaining and making it through the first half of the year. Maybe you didn't accomplish all your goals, but here are some examples of some things that you can celebrate. Hey, at least I was able to keep my housing secure. At least I prevented my utilities from getting shut off. At least I was able to maintain transportation reliably to work. At least I was able to maintain my health insurance and pay my premiums. At least I was able to avoid eviction. At least I was able to break an impulse spending habit. At least I was able to reach out and ask for help. Sometimes we don't need to get down on ourselves for money that maybe we saved and spent, or maybe we had a challenging first half of the year. Maybe we were forced to do a career pivot, or we were laid off from a job and things didn't go as planned. I understand that, and I want to encourage you, rather than being hard on ourselves for all the things we didn't do, let's find places where we can celebrate, build confidence, and reinforce positive behaviors by highlighting the places where we were able to just maintain or we were able to make it, because those are just as important. And tip number 7: understand that there is a mental journey to move from financially surviving to thriving. So I'm going to put up this little chart right here and you can see where you might be, what stage you might be at. But sometimes we get so excited to do things that maybe are at the thriving stage or the growing stage, and we haven't even achieved the steps of surviving. Right? Like, let's actually get to a place where we are surviving each month. Then we can get to stabilizing, then recovering, then growing, then thriving. But let's not confuse ourselves and try to do things before we've even get there, trying to put the cart before the horse. The best part is you have a money coach that no matter what stage you might be at, I'm here to help you accomplish the goals of the current stage and move to the next stage. So I'm super excited for us to talk about how we can implement those 7 tips as we are continuing to go into quarter 3 and throughout the rest of this year. So that's it, you guys. That is all I have for you for this quarterly check-in video. Again, I want to encourage you to find time to schedule a quarterly check-in, whether it's a phone call, a virtual meeting, or if you are in Maryland, the DMV area, and you want to meet. Either one of those is great, but I would love to hear from you. If you don't want to schedule a check-in, that's fine. Just give me a call or a text. Let me know that you're alive and well, that you're doing okay. Other than that, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching to the end of this video. I'm really working on making this video shorter. This is like the 3rd time I recorded it, so hopefully 3rd time's a charm. As we go through this next quarter, things might continue to get rocky, but just know that you do have options. You have people in your corner. You have resources that can help you, and I'm here to create a plan and strategize to do exactly that. So thank you so much. Love you guys. Have a great day. Bye.